Oh, good.
Oh, good.
Out of my way.
Pass it around.
Back off. Let's see what we got here. So, real firearm? Yeah?
What does the badge say?
What's the badge?
Oh, thank you. Got it.
Are you with the police department, sir?
Here you go.
Yeah?
The name?
Oh,
Yeah.
We've got one. One per family. Okay.
Well, good morning. I should say good afternoon. Thank you all for coming. A lot to talk about today. Let me get into just briefly why we have done all of this, including the award for the identity of the whistleblower. There needs to be clarity in the nation's capital. You know, in the last week or so, last couple of weeks, it occurred to me and to Jacob that the United States was starting to look like a banana republic. And we have to remember that our president has rights too. He has civil rights, and his civil rights need to be protected. And most importantly, we need clarity on this issue. We don't need back rooms and dark rooms and hidden identities and some congressman saying this on television, and it's just we're starting to look like a combination of a banana republic and Argentina under Pinochet. But the good news is, I think our reward has helped to clarify the situation. Now, we have a number of things to talk to you about today. We're going to turn this over to Jacob. We're going to tell you about our trip to the Ukraine. As many of you know, we were in the Ukraine this summer. And Jacob, you have handouts concerning that. Jacob is going to tell you more about that.
That's right. So we're going to begin by talking about our findings as it relates to Mr. Biden, and then we're going to get to the whistleblower today. As all of you know, we have taken upon a mission to vet the 2020 candidates. Now, many people have called us hit job artists, smear artists, things like this. None of this is true. We have actually given an explicit seal of approval to several candidates. We've given a seal of approval to Bernie, for example, and the other serious candidate that we've given our seal of approval to is John Delaney. Doesn't mean that we agree with their politics, but it means that the rumors about these candidates have been investigated thoroughly, and that there are no rumors. There are no rumors that have any teeth, that is. So there are no rumors about Bernie Sanders. There are no rumors about John Delaney. Now, as it concerns Mr. Biden, there were serious allegations of corruption on the part of him and his son, Hunter. In fact, just today, as we were getting ready this press conference, pictures came out of the Vice President, Joe Biden, golfing with the executives of Burisma, the Ukrainian gas company in question that was engaged in the corruption. So in early July, we decided that our investigation was going to lead us overseas, that we needed to go to Ukraine in order to investigate allegations, conduct interviews with witnesses, and review documents. The document that you have before you is a transcript in English, it's been translated, of an interview between myself and Mr. Shokin, the former General Prosecutor of the Republic of Ukraine, in which he lays out in detail how he was removed thanks to obstruction of justice, and that is how he characterizes it, on the part of the Vice President, or former Vice President, Joe Biden. He could not be more clear about the fact that corruption took place, about the fact that Hunter Biden, a allegedly recovering crack addict, was made a board member of this company, a major Ukrainian energy company, and then paid $50,000 a month for one reason: to make sure that the U.S. would not stop illicit Chinese investment into that company, along with the EU and other entities concerned with investment in Europe. This was entirely corrupt, and Joe Biden has said that he has no knowledge of this, that he has no idea. It's interesting because he is caught golfing with the executives in question. He did live with his son in the same home at the time in question. And common sense would dictate that if your son, who's a former crack addict, suddenly secures a $50,000 a month gig on the board of a Ukrainian energy company. Oh, and gets $1.5 billion in investment from Chinese state-owned firms. Seems like something you might be privy to. But Joe says that he has no idea about any of this, and Jack can share a little bit more about just how unbelievable Joe's side of the story is and what we're calling for Joe Biden to do, which is drop out of the race today.
I think in light of this, when you have the corruption that Joe Biden has engaged in, that his son has engaged in, and now they're trying to turn the tables on the president and somehow blame this all on the president because the president decided to speak to, allegedly speak to the president of Ukraine, I think it's absurd. We do call, Jacob is quite right, we do call on Vice President Biden to leave the race and leave the race immediately. We don't feel that a person with his background and his record and his family problems and his history of family corruption has any business running for president. So we do make that call today. I want to turn now to, as all of you know, I think, we put out a reward this week for the identity of the whistleblower, which has attracted some good international attention. We think it has gone a long way toward clarifying this. We have a claimant, and a name has come forward, and we've received some interesting calls this morning. Jacob, you want to outline?
We do have the name of the whistleblower, thanks to brave members of staff inside the White House, inside the National Security Council that came forward and gave us this name. Basically, there were only two people who this could be. People who were A, male, B, had knowledge of Ukraine, and one of them was no longer in the building. And so it was very clear who this was to people who worked in the White House. And by the way, there have been reports that the president is seeking the name. Those reports are false. The president does know the name. Now, in this country, whistleblowers are entitled to protection. They're entitled to protection from professional retribution, and I think we can all agree that that is a good thing. But they are not entitled to run coups against a sitting president of the United States and do so behind a veil of anonymity. This whistleblower's attorney has claimed that there is some sort of bounty on the whistleblower's head. This is not true. The only reward offered was for the whistleblower's real and true name. Now, Jack can speak to some of the legal concerns here that have been brought to our attention by intelligence officials today, and kind of take it from there.
U.S. intelligence, we spoke today with Courtney Elwood, who apparently is a lawyer with the CIA. There's concerns about, we don't think there's any legal problem with releasing the name. However, out of due deference to our government, we have a lawyer reviewing this before we release the name. So we cannot release it today because we have been asked not to do so. And of course, we will defer to the government if they feel there are national security or other concerns. So we have a lawyer reviewing those laws as we speak in the last few hours. As soon as that is completed, then we will very likely release the name. It wouldn't surprise me, frankly, if in the next few days you will have a situation where this name is leaked out anyway. But it will be coming from us soon.
That's right. And this official specifically cited the Intelligence Identities Protection Act of 1982. Our counsel, on the surface, doesn't believe that this is a concern. This law concerns people who are active covert officers serving our nation, not lunatic fringe leftists who are attempting to remove a president by leaking information. This is a leaker. This is not a whistleblower. And with that, we're going to open it up to questions from the press.
The floor is yours.
Do you have video or audio recordings of the transcript that you handed us?
Yes, we do, and those interviews took place in Russian, so if you would like a translator to listen to them, but they're going to be released today via Jack's Twitter.
On Jack's Twitter, okay.
Yeah.
So, when are you guys going to release the whistleblower's name? Do we have a timeline?
We have our lawyer is reviewing the two national security statutes in question, and as soon as he's completed with his review, and we think he will say it's fine, but the law firm's checking on that. As soon as we get an opinion, we'll do it.
I mean, are we looking at a couple hours, a couple days?
We're looking at a couple of hours, most likely, or perhaps tomorrow.
24 hours. 24 hours.
All right, so we Guys, this is now, I don't know, the umpteenth press conference y'all have done, especially Jack, you know, you guys. The Mueller press conference fell apart. The Buttigieg press conference fell apart. The Epstein one you had to cancel because someone was trying to, to hoodwink you out of the reward money, supposedly. You know, why should anyone believe anything here you're saying today?
Well, the evidence in this case couldn't be more clear. You have pictures of Biden with these executives that don't come from us, that come from independent sources. You have this prosecutor, both in an interview with me and in a sworn affidavit, saying that this is what happened. You have the former Ukrainian president coming out yesterday and saying that our version of the facts is the correct one. And then on the other side, you have the former vice president who is posing a counter-narrative that is simply and truly unbelievable. Anything else here?
Take a look. I would encourage you all to take a close look at the handout. I think Jacob has done some excellent work with that, and you'll see, take a very close look at that. There's some news in there. There's a lot in there that has never been released in the American press before.
Yes.
Yeah, question for you, Jacob. On Twitter, there was an image released of you changing your location on Instagram of certain photos behind you in a fence. Any comment on why you changed those locations?
Good question. Yeah, good question. So when posting photos in foreign countries, I will often use a different location for my own safety. A lot of these countries that you visit in Eastern Europe are not the safest places for Americans to venture.
Ukraine is horribly unsafe, and if you're as famous as Jacob Wohl, it's a very dangerous place, and particularly because we weren't traveling with security.
How did you get Mr. Shokin to agree to talk to you?
You know, that's a good question. I think he was just interested in presenting the facts as truly and as honestly as he knows them. We didn't really provide any sort of motivation or anything like that. Just a simple request, and we negotiated the dates, and that was sort of tough, but we made it happen.
How long was this meeting? I mean, it looks like it was about 3 minutes based on the transcript. It looks pretty short.
Well, there were some pleasantries, and there were some pleasantries exchanged, and there was some discussion as to the terms of the interview. And at a certain point in the interview, Mr. Shokin was, he says, required to go to another meeting. I think he grew uncomfortable with the scope of the questions. I did not hold back any questions, as you can see. I was interested in both sides of the story, including the allegations of corruption against him. And he wasn't interested in going there, and he got up and he left.
Question.
Yes.
What type of relationship do you have with the president right now? I mean, are you in contact with the administration?
As has always been the case, I would never talk about that, whether it was true, whether I had any contact with the president or anybody related to the president.
Jacob, are you concerned about your upcoming felony trial? Do you have any legal, criminal liability you're worried about?
No legal concerns. No, I can't say that I have any legal concerns.
What about you, Jack? Are you under investigation by the D.C. bar for any complaints made against you?
Not that I know of. Not to my knowledge.
Really? Okay.
Not to my knowledge.
Yes.
Burkman, you're over a long period of time, your lobbying disclosure forms have kind of fell off and kind of tailed. Your clients, are they okay with your? Are they okay with your involvement in these schemes?
I probably over the years I've evolved into working with strong conservatives, so they like the work we do. Of course, I challenge your premise and characterization, but I think they like what we do. As a general proposition, I think they very much do.
What about lawmakers? You go meet with on Capitol Hill as lobbyists. I mean, any kind of.
Well, if you're meeting with Nancy Pelosi, she's not going to like it. If you're meeting with others, most of the people we meet with are arch conservatives, so they love what you're doing. It all depends on the ideology. Congress is as polarized as the nation, you know.
Is there a reason for the disclaimer basically stating that this is not a legally binding transcript?
Well, the reason that the disclaimer is there is just to describe what the document is and what the document isn't. That way the document is not mischaracterized in the media. We want to make sure that everybody's on the same page with exactly what that document is.
You have no airline tickets to prove that you went or any documents?
We do.
Sure, I could hand you the original right now if you'd like.
Could we see that? That'd be awesome. Yeah, the original boarding pass.
Somewhere in here.
We figure
Just
you
one
might ask. Give us a second.
Oh, there we go. You get a souvenir today. You're the guest of honor. I also have 10 Ukrainian hryvnia in my wallet by chance.
I'm okay, Jacob.
You're the winner. Look at that. You get some Ukrainian currency.
Can we take?
I don't know. I just happen to have the last boarding pass on the
Okay.
way back, but
Hold on.
Jacob.
Have you all had any contact with Rudy Giuliani?
Hold on.
you know what's important. What we think is important here are the facts, and the facts are as we've displayed. Who we've contacted and who we've talked to. I will say that we are very grateful for the work that Mr. Giuliani has done. I think he was in Ukraine at the same time that we were. He's done a lot of work in terms of identifying sources and people to talk to and who might be involved. And as you know, that Rudy Giuliani is one of the nation's most famous and celebrated investigators.
We thank God he's working on behalf of the president, working on behalf of our country. I think he has done his usual excellent work in this matter.
So y'all are in Ukraine for what, 30 days?
I left for Ukraine on July 3rd and came back August 23rd.
Okay, so it's a good length of time. So, obviously you had this about 4 or 5 minute interview with Shokin. Did you get anything else?
Yes, I recovered documentary evidence. I spoke with other sources, some of which ended up being dead ends, some of which ended up being bait and switches. But all in all, I think that the narrative that we were able to turn up and what we'll continue to turn up was a very disturbing narrative of foreign corruption on the part of Vice President Biden and his son.
And I would tell you this, we feel
Do you mind using the mic?
Oh, sure.
Sorry.
We can hold it.
Yeah. We feel we have just scratched the surface with Biden and his son in this saga. I think about 2% of what went on is out there. And you have some new stuff with you today, but we are only just beginning. There's a whole mountain of stuff yet to come out. So if Mr. Biden thinks he's beat the rap on this, he's crazy.
So you guys will definitely release the whistleblower's name in 24 hours.
Well, we will most probably. We have to get an opinion. We follow the law, of course. We need to get an opinion from counsel on what national security statutes may or may not apply. We don't think any apply, but
they
we
were
have a law
claiming
firm.
they were
Check.
claiming the Intelligence Identities Protection Act of 1982, which is what they used to launch the investigation of the outing of Valerie Plame. But she was an active covert officer. This is a different story. This person was not an active covert officer. So we're fairly confident that the legal opinion will come back and we'll be able to name the person in no uncertain terms. And as Jack mentioned, it would be of absolutely no surprise to us if that name just happened to leak out in the press.
Are you implying that you'd leak it?
No.
No.
So wait, you guys, you said you got help from people within the White House, people within the National Security Council. I mean, isn't that, like, frankly, as a citizen, it's a little concerning to me if those people are leaking
It's not
the
concerning at
identity
all.
of
I
the
mean,
CIA.
what they look at is they look at a colleague from the CIA who took it upon themselves to take hearsay, take third-hand, second-hand information and some first-hand information, and attempt to work with Adam Schiff to remove a president. I mean, Adam Schiff the other day did something so embarrassing by doing what he called a satire presentation of the transcript, because the transcript of the call was so banal. This is an absolute clown show, and so these are concerned American citizens, professionals that work in the national security business, who think this is a shame. This is an absolute travesty that's been carried out by this so-called whistleblower, and they want to make this person's name known, and they have.
Yeah, you kind of surreptitiously recorded Hunter Kelly way back when. Well, I mean, why didn't you record or take a photo of you at this interview? I mean, any...
I missed your question. Can
Yeah,
you repeat it?
my question was, why did you take any photos at this interview? Was there any type of recording of the conversation?
I just talked about the recording, and like I said.
You didn't take any photos of the venue?
Oh no, I took photos. Yeah. It was at the yes. It was at the Intercontinental. Yes, it was at the Intercontinental Hotel in Kiev at the cafe, and we'll be releasing photos as well.
When will those photos come about?
Same time.
Oh, it's all coming out.
Same time.
You
as
won't
the,
be disappointed.
Same time as the release.
There will
the
no
name?
same time as the release of the recording, which is going to be right after this press conference and a tweet thread. Yes. Did I see a question over there?
Did we miss a question?
Yes.
Any comment to Caroline Cass and Hunter Kelly and I mean Ilhan
That's-
Omar? Whatever.
Oh yeah, I mean Ilhan Omar. Let's talk about Ilhan Omar. Her most friendly newspaper has now come out and said conclusively that she did marry her own brother in a fraudulent loan scheme. Our dossier ended up being entirely 100% correct according to the Minneapolis Star-Tribune. So I would say we're very proud of our work as it relates to Ilhan Omar, and we're very proud of our work as it relates to other cases that we've handled as well, including Justin Fairfax, where we investigated rape allegations against him and concluded that those allegations were 100% false and that those women were making up those stories. So, as I've said, we're happy to lay down facts that are bad for somebody's political chances, and we're also happy to clear people, as we've done in the case of Bernie, who has our seal of approval, and John Delaney, who has
I know
our
you
seal
don't
of
think
approval as well.
so. I know you don't think so, but what we do is thoroughly apolitical and fact-based. I know you don't think so, but it's the truth.
Jack, what do your neighbors think of the fact that you have these press conferences out here? I mean, I'm seeing your neighbors, they look very confused. Were you banned from the Holiday Inn? What happened?
Not that I know of, and I don't know what my neighbors think. I've never discussed it with them, is the honest answer. But why not some excitement, Will? It's a boring street.
Have you reached out to the person who you believe is the whistleblower?
No, that would be actually, we couldn't do that. They have counsel. We'd have to reach out through their counsel. We haven't reached out to them or their counsel. We are considering reaching out to their counsel to discuss, as a professional courtesy, the best way to make their name known. We feel that if the whistleblower's counsel would like to make their name known, that would be in the interest of our democracy. It would be in the interest of transparency. We'd encourage the lawyer to do so before we do so, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen.
Speaking of lawyers, who's the lawyer that's vetting? You guys say you're waiting on a lawyer to get back to you about.
It's my firm's law firm. I can't get into too much. Just my personal lawyer, longtime D.C. lawyer.
On the Ilhan Omar story, Jacob, you filed a police report while you were there working on that documentary importing Omar or importing Ilhan. Do you stand by that police report you filed saying that somebody threatened you via Twitter?
Oh, we had a deluge of threats while we were in Minneapolis, and we turned in a whole stack of them. And I guess later there was some setup carried out by one of our rivals in which they spoofed a location to make it look like it was our account. That's all nonsense, obviously, and of course we're happy to report people who threaten us to the police.
Yeah, I guess my question is, who's funding this again? Is it still you guys funding this? You said the $50,000 reward was claimed in a tweet. What's going on with the $50,000?
It ended up being split. It ended up being split between 3 people.
So, are you guys going to release the names of those 3 people?
Absolutely, 100% not.
The first step will be...
They're the real whistleblowers. They're the real heroes.
Those are whistleblowers layered on whistleblowers. They surely don't want their identities revealed. But the first step will be, once we have legal clearance, we will release the name of the whistleblower.
So where did the 50,000? You guys just funding yourself still?
This is all us. This is all me. We pay for this. We don't want the last thing. I've never raised any public money for this or GoFundMe or anything like that. We don't do this stuff. This is all me. I think that's the only way to keep all of this completely non-controversial.
So who's receiving the $50,000?
We can't get into that. Like I said, those are the real whistleblowers.
No, you have to
those are the real
understand.
whistleblowers. Those are the real heroes, and they deserve a whistleblower's reward, as the government often pays out.
I
to
mean,
people
just
who
think
go to
about it. If you were that person coming forth to tell us, would you want your name out in the press?
Well, I mean, just from your perspective, I'd be very concerned if I was paying government employees. You're saying people in the White House, people in the National
We haven't
Security
paid any
Council.
government employees.
Okay.
We have not paid any government employees and would not.
So your whistleblowers, your 3, are not government employees.
There are a variety of people involved. We have had, I will say this, certainly we would never pay government employees. There are a variety of people coming forth. We can't parse it too much. There
are current employees, current sources, former employees, former sources, people who work at think tanks now. And actually, if people were a bit more forensic in the press, they could probably figure out who these people are. Based on who's in my social circles, but I don't suspect that the media will be able to figure it out. Yes?
Yeah, what's next for you two? It was Caroline Cass, Hunter Kelly, now it's this. What's next?
Let me ask you a question. Don't you think this is a noble initiative to force the name of the whistleblower out? Do you really like, you in the media, do you really like this kind of clandestine government and clandestine society where all of this is being done in darkness? I mean, this is like Henry VIII. I'll turn that question around and ask it to you. Do you like a country like that? Do you like a capital like that? That's not a good situation. That's like Star Chamber.
Any last questions?
Yeah, just for the record, the security guard the same one that you've had before?
Yes.
Okay. And he has a new badge this time. Is he associated with any police departments?
No. Private. He's totally private.
All right, so let's see. Starting the 24-hour countdown now.
You can start the countdown.
start the countdown now.
We are awaiting a legal opinion, and we will have it soon. It might be a lot sooner than that.
Further, I can promise you that we have other inquiries into Mr. Biden and other candidates as well. And what we would encourage these candidates to do is to come to us, to come here to 1599, to undergo vetting, perhaps undergo a polygraph test if there are any questions, and come to us. We're happy to engage in vetting, to do this in a collegial and cordial way, and then give our seal of approval. That's what John Delaney did, and he got the seal of approval.
John Delaney came here.
Yes.
What you will find, John Delaney did come here. What you will find if people, I will say this to every candidate running in the field, if you don't come here, you will find that the internet, you need our seal of approval. Jacob has been number one trending.
It's true. It's
50
true.
times.
People want to make light of this.
Without the seal of approval, you will not survive the internet deluge.
Because
Why you laughing? What's funny about this?
because
Did
it
John
is
Delaney come here?
it is a funny.
Yes, he did.
Does that mean Bernie came here?
No, Bernie did not come. Bernie did not cooperate. We can give our seal of approval without a candidate cooperating, although it makes it much faster and much easier if they do cooperate.
You see, all of these people, you're laughing, but I know Bernie. I like him. He's a great guy. I just happen to he's a wonderful man. I just happen to disagree with him. Known him for years. What I would say is, you're facing internet allegations. I will tell you, we are the only ones that can vet these allegations and declare you clean. If you don't,
think about Hillary, for instance. The conservative media, the internet, said that Hillary had every disease under the sun. She had Parkinson's, she had seizures, she had pneumonia, she had every disease you can imagine. And, you know, whether those things were true or false, they're going to be believed by a certain percentage of the population. And so what we do is we say, okay, we're the king of internet rumors. We understand the dynamic of the internet, and we know how to ensure that there are no rumors floating around. So again, our seal of approval goes to Joe Sestak. He's not a legitimate candidate, let's be honest. He has no chance of winning, but he is declared. He has our seal of approval. Doesn't mean we agree with his politics, but he has our seal of approval as it relates to rumors. John Delaney has our seal of approval, and Bernie Sanders has our seal of approval. We hope to give our seal of approval to other people. We are in the final stages of our investigation into Elizabeth Warren, and you're going to be hearing more about that very soon. And like I said, we still have ongoing investigations as it relates to Joe Biden. But I think everybody knows that Joe Biden has a lot of problems, that his family has a lot of problems. For God's sakes, the man's son is a crack addict who married his other dead son's wife, widow. That's disgusting, sick stuff. I think we'd all agree. None of us here are deviants in that way.
Shakespeare couldn't come up with that one.
Do y'all have any proof John Delaney came here? Pictures, perhaps?
We may. I'll look for it. If I think the answer is probably yes. I'll email you.
And you mentioned a polygraph test. Did John Delaney submit to a
No,
polygraph
there was no
test anywhere
polygraph
else?
with John Delaney. It's just an idea, and I think it would serve a lot of these candidates very well. So with that, we're going to do 2 more questions, and then we'll wrap up.
Did you extend the invite? Have you been in contact with other 2020 presidential campaigns? Have you spoken with them?
You know, we sent out an invite per standard procedure to their press box. Obviously, that gets overwhelmed, and so we don't know if our invite even gets read or what's the deal. But the best way to invite these candidates is to tell them to look at me as I say, come here, come to be vetted, come to undergo vetting, bring your records, bring your loan applications, Elizabeth Warren, bring all of these things, and we're happy to give you the seal of approval if everything checks out and there are no rumors. Bernie has the seal of approval, Joe Sestak has the seal of approval, as does John Delaney. One last question, anybody?
One more.
All right.
Ladies, gentlemen, thank you. Thank you for coming.
Have a great day.
We'll see you next time.